Tonight on Joynews Prime, Ghanaians to enjoy another 3 months of free electricity and water.
We've reduced electricity prices by half and completely provided potable water for free for everybody since March this year, and we will extend it for another 3 months.
The government announces a 100 billion cedis ambitious plan to help transform the country following the COVID-19 pandemic that has affected the economy.
I'm happy to announce that in the coming weeks, the President will launch a 100 billion, Mr. Speaker, Ghana cedis development program.
Also in this bulletin, governing NPP objects to calls for sanctions against MP for Ewutu Senya East, Hawa Kumsin, arguing her conduct does not breach the party's constitution.
I think it's over-exaggerated, and people are...
It's exaggerated?
It's over-exaggerated.
Over-exaggerated.
That's what I'm saying.
And later in this bulletin, second-year student of Ejisu Secondary Technical Senior High School hospitalized after drinking liquid soap in what is believed to be attempted suicide on campus.
Unfortunately, there was this liquid soap there that they used to clean the office. I don't know what happened, and then one of the students took it. So quickly we came, and then he was there on the ground, and then we took him to the hospital.
And in business, Finance Minister seeks approval from Parliament to spend 11.8 billion Ghana cedis for the rest of the year as GDP growth target is revised.
The projected real GDP growth for 2020 has been revised considerably downwards from 6.8% to 0.9%. Mr. Speaker, the fiscal cost of COVID-19 pandemic is enormous.
My name is Aisha Ibrahim. We're live from our studios in Kokomlemle in Accra on your digital terrestrial TV, because we are free to air on your DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. Many thanks for choosing us. Tonight we begin with the mid-year budget review, and I will be having this conversation shortly with Professor Godfred Bokpin, economist and professor of finance at the University of Ghana, Solomon Kote, General Secretary of the Industrial Commercial Workers Union, Dr. Lord Mensah, who is Senior Lecturer at the Finance Department of the University of Ghana Business School, and James Kluche Aveji, who is Deputy Minority Leader in Parliament. But first, Ghanaians will enjoy another 3 months of free water and electricity supply as the government further reduces the burden of the COVID-19 pandemic on the citizenry. The Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, who announced this during this year's mid-year budget review, explained government puts the concerns and aspirations of the ordinary Ghanaian first.
We remember also well how the previous government, after imposing the inconvenient and income-sapping doomsday on households and businesses for 5 years, and insensitively increased electricity prices first by 89%, then by 10%, then by 78% and 20%, and finally by 59% between 2010 and 2015 alone. It took courage, Mr. Speaker, and care for President Akufo-Addo to do what no other government have been able to do before, which is a net reduction of electricity tariffs by 11% since 2017. Such is a higher level of care today, that today, nearly 4 years in office, electricity prices for Ghanaians, households and businesses all included, remain cheaper in both nominal and real terms than what they were before 2017. Mr. Speaker, the reason is simple. It is because we put the concerns and aspirations of the ordinary Ghanaian first. That is also why we further reduce electricity prices by half and completely provide potable water for free for everybody since March this year, and we will extend it for another 3 months. To break it down, Mr. Speaker, it takes a caring government of the people, and with that, I mean a government of all the people, to offer cost-free water to all across the country, representing all domestic and commercial customers in Ghana for 3 months. Mr. Speaker, it takes a caring government to be for the people and for business, large and small, to choose to subsidize electricity consumption by 50% to 4 million households and nearly 700,000 businesses at a cost of $1 billion in 3 months, and we will extend the coverage for Lifeline customers for another 3 months.
The government will also, in the coming weeks, launch a 100 billion Ghana cedis economic recovery program aimed at restoring Ghana's economy from the effect of COVID-19. In its 2020 mid-year budget review presentation, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta announced that the president and his team have done a lot of thinking since March and brainstormed over the crisis, focusing on using the challenges as an opportunity to transform the country's economy. He describes the move as an ambitious and unprecedented 3.5 years program called Ghana Coronavirus Alleviation Revitalization of Enterprises Support CARES.
Mr. Speaker, the virus has laid bare our vulnerabilities as a world, as nations, as households, and as individuals. As at yesterday, Wednesday, 22nd July 2020, 622,725 persons had sadly succumbed to this virus, and 15,240,290 had been infected across the world. Mr. Speaker, even before we fully grasp the impact of the COVID-19 outbreak, our immediate concerns were on protecting lives and preserving livelihoods of our people. The President moved swiftly with a 100 million preparedness plan, which was prescient and laid the foundation to implement measures to save lives and safeguard economic activities by improving citizens' access to essential public services and helping businesses weather the downturn. Mr. Speaker, the pandemic has also brought to the fore the structural gaps in our health delivery system. That is why, with urgency, we have already begun to mount an effective, coordinated, and sustainable long-term response to the health needs of the people. Under the Agenda 111, previously Agenda 88 initiative of His Excellency the President for hospitals, we will design, build, equip, and staff new hospitals in every district without one, and a new regional hospital in every region with none. This demonstrates government's commitment to protect the lives of Ghanaians. The President has declared that all the district hospitals will be designed and built by Ghanaians, built companies, and will lay the foundation for the launch of the nationwide housing program, God willing, in his second term.
Let's now get deeper into the Finance Minister's mid-year budget review. Joining me is Dr. Lord Mensah. He's an economist and also with the Finance Department of the University of Ghana Business School. Doc, I'm grateful for your time. Also on the other line is James Kluche Aveji, who is Deputy Minority Leader in Parliament. We'll also be joined by Professor Bokbin, who is a finance analyst and professor in economics, and also by Solomon Kote, who's General Secretary of the ICU. Let me start with you, Dr. Lord Mensah. It looks like we'll be borrowing the more in the coming days, as the Finance Minister hints. What's your projection?
Well, if you listen to my communication this morning with your studio, I indicated that, times like this, government will definitely borrow. But as to where to borrow, that's where the question is. And I believe that the borrowing will come from the local, market. Now, the local market avails itself opportunities to borrow. Because at this time, before the COVID and even within the COVID, treasury bill rate is down. And comparatively, looking at the business confidence, which is also down, everyone that has, funds would like to invest. So I see it to be an opportunity for the government to borrow from the local environment. And then also looking at the Bank of Ghana the government issuance of bonds that the Bank of Ghana can tap into. These are ways that I think we can grow our economy by looking inwardly. Now, external borrowing, I don't foresee that. Mainly what we're going to get is going to be grants and all those. I am a bit surprised with the budget. If I am to look into the budget, I would have wished that, the finance minister would treat COVID as a standalone, for which, we will look at the inflows that COVID comes with, and then possibly the outflows that goes with it. If you look at the total expenditure and the revisions that the finance minister has done, clearly the expenditure side has been padded with COVID-related expenditure. And in fact, if you look at the revisions, that is what is shooting up the expenditure to 97 billion and over. And I asked myself and related to, the bridge financing that the finance minister went to request from the parliament last time, I can't really get the head and tail of it. So my wish would have been that, the finance minister would have treated the COVID as a standalone kind of project, for which we'll see the inflows that COVID comes with. After we've received some grant, we've received some philanthropical funding, which the revenue side failed to, highlight on. And so for me, for that side, I see the numbers being jumbled together to dazzle myself as I sit here. And so if the finance minister can come again by giving us the inflows that COVID came with, because we already had our budget line, which obviously would have gone for a review anyway, because as a country, we've never met our revenue target since, an eye-opener. So for me, I believe that the presentation now did not really, do well on the side of COVID, because, COVID is a different line of, kind of event that has come to derail what existed already. And so I was expecting that we would have, had, a kind of COVID-related budget separately from our main budget streamline. Because if you look at the revisions, the finance minister never touched on the capital expenditure. Capital expenditure was not touched. If you look at compensation, it was raised a bit up. If you look at grant and other government, expenditure, it was, to other government, it was revised down. And that is where I always have problems. But then let's look at other expenditure. That is where I have problems. Other expenditure, looking at COVID-related and ESLA. And in the COVID-related alone, we had over 11 billion. So I asked myself, the projection that the finance minister did in the bridge financing that he requested from the parliament, he made projection of about 5-point-something billion, in excess just to cater for COVID. So why is it that the second half alone we had to spend about 11 billion just for COVID-related activities? That is where I have a problem. And you could see that the revenue side is more silent on COVID-related activities. COVID is bringing in something. After all, we are not printing papers anymore as far as administration is concerned. Government, officials are not traveling as expected, they used to be. So all these things are inflows that we will expect that the finance minister would have accounted for it before he would ask for that 11 billion, and over for the second, half of the year. So I see the whole budget as numbers put together to just, dazzle people like myself as I sit here, that I can't see the head and tail.
Let me bring in James Kluja-Veggie, who is the deputy minority leader in Parliament. Doc, the minister explained to you that the over 11 billion cedis he is demanding for is for tackling the coronavirus pandemic. He announced some freebies, including additional electricity for Lifeline customers and water for all Ghanaians and what have you. He also said that we'll be borrowing more, he admits, but that is as a result of the coronavirus pandemic and all of that. That makes sense, isn't it?
Good evening to your listeners, Aisha. Let me begin by giving some basic information before I try to explain or answer your question. If you see clearly where we stand today, or by June of this year, in terms of our fiscal performance, it is clear that government has not performed well. The revenue target for the whole year, it's about 68 billion in the budget, which was approved in December last year. Now, because of the COVID, according to the minister, the expected revenue now by the end of 2020 will no more be the target of 68 billion. It has dropped from 68 billion by a whopping 19.8 or 20%, which is 13.4 billion in number terms, to a 53.7 billion Ghana cedis. Now, whilst revenue is dropping by 20%, expenditure is increasing, or expenditure will be increased to 97.7 billion Ghana cedis. Now, this is giving us a gap of about 44 billion Ghana cedis. This is where the question is. Now, if your revenue is only 53 billion, or let's say 54, and your expenditure is going to be 97 or 98 billion, the difference of 44, how are you going to finance it? Now, as Dr. Lord Mensah has said, we need to show clearly what is the position of COVID, what is COVID bringing to us as a country. So far, as you can see in the budget, the minister actually indicated that there has been a rapid credit facility of $1 billion, which translated to about 5.85 billion Ghana cedis. Government received that money as a result of the COVID. Now, government also received about 2.03 billion Ghana cedis from the World Bank. And then we also received from Bank of Ghana, which is borrowing, which was approved by Parliament, about 10 billion from Bank of Ghana because of COVID to government. Now, we also took some money from the stabilization fund, about $200 million, and if you convert, it's about 1.2 billion Ghana cedis. That is also taken from the stabilization fund to the contingency fund, then allow the minister to use for COVID-related issues. Now, so you see clearly that the expected GDP growth of 6.8% of GDP, which the minister has targeted for 2020, has been revised downwards to 0.9% as a result of COVID. But data from previous year, from 2017 up to date, and which IMF Article 4 reports, and then also the COVID-19 report, indicate that the issue of blaming COVID-19 all the time as a result of the poor performance fiscally by this government should not be the case, because we have had issues that clearly show that COVID-19, even though has effect on the performance of the economy, that cannot always be the only solution. So when government is announcing these reliefs to the people, that is good news, because the COVID has affected a lot of businesses. And if you see the disbursement of the funds, the COVID-19 funds in the budget, you see clearly that a lot of people who need the money are not receiving the money, yet the balance is standing in the book of government. Why is the minister waiting for all this money standing in the book of government, where businesses need to be supported, and then small enterprises need assistance? They are not getting it, and money is sitting down. What is the minister going to do in order to ensure that these businesses receive the money as early as possible so that it can cushion them in order to make profits, for government to tax their profit and make income.
That is for Parliament to question the finance minister on that. But let me bring back.
We'll question the finance minister.
Let me bring back Dr. Lord. Let me bring back Dr. Lord Mensah on this. The impact of COVID is dire. And plus, we're also entering into an election year. The minister says he seeks to revive the economy with some 100 billion cedis package. What's the reality, knowing very well also that in an election year, the economy, the spending of government balloons?
Well, the minister is very aware of the spending. That is why in the budget, he requested for a scrap of those fiscal, responsibility act and, things that governs the control of our budget deficit, raising the budget deficit to about, I think 11 point something or so, from all the way target of 4.5 to 11 point something. This gives you the signal that the minister is ready or to go all out to spend in the devoid of the election year. And so for me, I'm not surprised because the aggressive posture of the government is still clear on the ground. The government doesn't want to renege on the optimistic budget that was, presented in 2018. So if you look at the presentation clearly, it gives you the signal that the minister is just adding on the COVID expenditure, to the existing expenditure. And that is what is creating that huge, expenditure of 90-something, billion, 97 billion. Now, if you take a country and you really want to manage in the era of, COVID, I believe that you definitely have to be conserved a bit. Because if you take, a country where your revenue has been revised down, and then you widen your expenditure, it seems to be an aggressive, nature of looking at the future. And for me, if you manage in a manner of, expanding your expenditure while your revenue is coming down, you might always face problems. And I think the minister knows the consequence. That is why he's calling for, a review of the, Fiscal Responsibility Act so that they can go all out, to make room for this expenditure that is outstanding.
Stay on for me, and because we're now going to talk about unemployment, because the finance minister has announced that the government will introduce a national unemployment scheme to pay temporary income to laid-off workers.
Mr. Speaker, government will inject liquidity into a system to ease cash flow difficulties of businesses and protect workers by honoring obligations to contractors and suppliers in a timely manner. Building on recent good experience of sourcing from the pharmaceutical and textile and garment sectors, government will expand procurement from local producers for its goods and services. Mr. Speaker, we are mindful of the fact that some businesses may have to shed some labor in order to survive. In the unlikely event that this happens, government through the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations is collaborating with social partners, labor and employers to establish a national unemployment insurance scheme. The scheme will provide temporary income support to workers that are laid off and also provide them access to retraining to help them take advantage of employment opportunities in new fields.
Dr. Lord Mensah, what do you make of the packages announced, especially with the establishment of the insurance package, insurance scheme for employment?
Well, I'm happy the minister realized that liquidity, provision for the system. This morning I emphasized on liquidity, but then the medium in provision that in providing that liquidity might be where I will have a problem. If provision of liquidity will be going through the corridors of the banks that we've cleaned and they are now stable, which they are able to intermediate and determine the various productive sectors of the economy, even in this COVID, I will be happy to see that. Not necessarily giving money to people, which those monies will end up, in unproductive hands and all those. I will not be happy to see that. But then also, I'm also happy with the local procurement expansion, which for me, it will go all the way to build up our local industry. And that is the order of the day. As we speak now, it's a lesson that we've learned in this COVID. I mean, to ensure that we develop, our local capacity to make sure consumption is basically, locally based. But then also with the national, insurance scheme, that is where I have problem. Elsewhere, for me, I would have left this for the private sector instead of leaving it, for the government to take care of. Now, look at our, national health insurance. It will give you a benchmark to tell you that when we attempt anything of that sort, it might not necessarily, yield the necessary dividend that is expected of these, insurance schemes. But then rather, if you go to the private sector, we have income insurance, which in a way, most of the agencies that employ can engage their employees to subscribe to such income, if the package is available anyway, to subscribe to such insurance, so that in times like this, that insurance comes to cushion, you throughout, the period that you find yourself unemployed. And then it falls back to line when things get better. So for me, I won't like the government to take up that national, how do they call it? National unemployment, insurance, but rather pass it on to the private sector. And I believe private sector with its own target for profit will ensure that the right thing is done.
A number of freebies announced by the finance minister, and it shows how much government is going to be spending in the coming days to fulfill all those promises. I'll be getting how, from James Kluchaveji, how they intend to ask for accountability from the finance minister. But first, the finance minister has also explained government's policies and expenditure plans, he says, have been to invest and improve the lives of Ghanaians to access better opportunities and ensure that even as the government promotes business and expands the middle class, the enforcing philosophy will be driven by the preferential option for the poor. He touched on how the government has invested over 1.6 billion Ghana cedis in employment under the NAPCO program.
We therefore set out to invest significant resources in the lives of the Ghanaian people by increasing expenditures in education, agriculture, industry, and all of our human capital. Mr. Speaker, in acknowledging that education is the primary driver for upward social and economic mobility, we rolled out a raft of policy measures to improve the opportunities of our people. We invested $3.2 billion to implement free SHS, resulting in over 1.2 million teenagers being in secondary school now, looking forward to better opportunities in life. The Akufo-Addo graduates. For their parents and families, this has translated into 2.2 billion in savings. That is money that the state has put back into the pockets of Ghanaians all across the country, and investments for the state for their future. We have also invested in excess of 1.6 billion in 100,000 jobless but educated young adults who had been ignored by the state and were in despair. Through the new NAPCO initiative, they have been engaged in various state and private institutions, with some of them securing permanent jobs in the process. That is money in the pockets of our youth. Mr. Speaker, from the onset, this government had determined that Ghana will be self-sufficient in food production through our Planting for Food and Jobs program, and would add value to what we produce as well. Create jobs along the value chain under the 1D1F program, which has currently over 70 factories in production, with many more under various stages of construction. So far, we've invested over 1.85 billion in our agriculture sector, resulting in agriculture growth which averaged about 2% between 2014 and 2016 to an average of 5.2% over the past 3 years. that is putting food in abundance on the table of Ghanaians, reducing the cost of living, and putting money in the pocket of over 1.2 million farmers nationwide.
And that was Ken Ofori-Atta, Finance Minister in Parliament. Now, Mr. Aveji, how does the minority intend to push for accountability from the Finance Minister, especially with the COVID-19 spending?
Thank you very much once again. Before I answer that question, let me talk briefly about the National Unemployment Insurance Scheme. If you recall, recently, the former President Mahama made a call that in the situation of COVID, the SNIT should have come in and cushion workers, because you should not always be saying that SNIT is for after you have retired, before you start benefiting. So I think that this is a response by this government to that suggestion made by President Mahama. But the issue about this National Unemployment Insurance Scheme, we need to have clear understanding by the minister. What does he mean by that? Is it that workers who have been laid off as a result of COVID, or workers who have been laid off in general that are going to be the beneficiary of this insurance? Or is it anybody who is not employed at all that is going to benefit? Because if we talk about employment in Ghana, the numbers are huge. And so we need understanding so that people will know clearly that they are the people who are going to benefit, or they are not going to benefit. If we leave it this way, it means that everybody in Ghana who is not working will be looking up to that fund, where that insurance, which definitely I think that would be difficult for government to do. In that case, it is a private sector that might undertake that one, and it's going to be limited to only workers. So that is what I want to say about that. Now, the minister talked about these investment in people. I think that all government in the past have all invested in people. That is why education has always remained the only sector that has taken a chunk of the budget of every government. In the previous government, education has taken more than 30% of the total budget of government. And so it remains the same. So if they say they're investing in people, yes, that is a good news, but it is something that is not new by this government. But one thing that struck me when the minister said that the graduates that are benefiting from these free SHS are now being called Akufo-Addo graduates. It's surprising. This is what some people have been saying, that why is the money coming from the Akufo-Addo's pockets, or is the taxpayers' money? Those children who are benefiting from these free SHS, their parents pay taxes. So they are their parents' graduate, not Akufo-Addo's graduate. That thing should be stopped. We don't want that, because the money is not personal money of the president. It is the people's of Ghana's money. And for that matter, calling these children Akufo-Addo's graduate is something that I don't think is the best thing to do.
But at least it was the President Akufo-Addo who initiated the free SHS.
Initiated and paid by whose money? You and I. You pay tax, I pay tax. It's our money that is being used to take care of these children. So why do we call it iShares graduates or Avaji's graduates? Simply because you happen to be the president at the time that this initiative is taking place.
So you will be debating this document when? Next week?
Please come again.
You'll be debating the document when? Next week?
Yeah, we'll start the debate on Monday next week.
How do you intend to push for accountability?
We will interrogate all the issues that are raised by the minister, as I'm saying here. For the minister to come clearly in most of those issues, then we want to find out proper accountability, how the monies are being spent and where the monies are going to come from. If you're talking about the 100 billion fund, how you're going to raise those money, we need to find out, so that clearly the people of Ghana will know that this budget is something that, because look, this government is a government that promised and never deliver. So this one should not remain one of the promises that will never be delivered.
Well, let's listen to what the finance minister said about the impact of COVID-19 on Ghana's finances. We'll come back and wrap up the conversation.
Mr. Speaker, just as the Ghanaian economy was beginning to consolidate its recent gains for growth and jobs, the COVID-19 outbreak hit the country, leading to the initial severe movement of movement of restrictions. Although the restrictions are gradually being eased, the pandemic continues to pose significant challenges to the Ghanaian economy. The sectors heavily affected include the hotel and hospitality industry, foreign direct investment, trade and industry, agriculture, health, transportation, manufacturing, religious services, education. Households and businesses have equally been hard hit with significant job losses and reduced incomes. Mr. Speaker, COVID-19 has led to disruptions in corporate and general business confidence, with threats to projected revenues, profitability, liquidity growth. So far, 19 of the 28 state-owned enterprises are projecting losses up to $1.6 billion for 2020. Mr. Speaker, restrictions on movement and enforcement of social distancing protocols severely affected the transport sector. Commuter minibus services, trotros, operated at 70% load capacity, whilst inner city buses had passengers reduced by 50% between March and May.
We're luckily being joined by the Deputy Finance Minister, Kweku Kwarteng, via Zoom. Many thanks for joining us on Joynews Prime. The minority says you're hiding behind COVID-19 to dupe the nation. Kindly unmute for me, Mr. Kweku Kwarteng.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And good evening to your viewers and my colleagues. First, I would answer the question you asked, but it's important that I correct an impression that was created earlier in the discussion about the resources from the IMF and the World Bank not reflected in the budget. Respectfully, that is completely false. And I would advise that we go to page 108. You see Appendix 3A, Summary of Central Government Operations 2020, where you see the 2020 budget. You see the revised figures. Under program loans, under borrowing, generally, you would see 22 billion as what was programmed in the 2020 budget. If you go to the revised budget, that increases to 30 billion. That gives you about 8 billion. Now, the 8 billion would reflect the addition 8 billion is partly the 100 million preparedness package from the World Bank and the 1 billion from the IMF. These are the only flows that have come, and they are clearly reflected in the financing tables of the budget. I can understand. I think some of these tables have not gotten to some of these social commentators yet, but my advice is that until you have gotten a copy of the budget, we should not be putting such statement out. It is pretty unhelpful to say that these have come to government, somehow they were not reflected in the budget. And then second, I have heard suggestions that somehow we should have separated government budget, traditional budget, from COVID budget. Now, when you sit where we sit, you see that that is a very unhelpful proposition, and it is this. COVID has come to stay. COVID has come to stay. It is a new reality. And government must prepare its budget on the basis of these new realities. I do not know what we achieve by saying that if there was no COVID, this is what would have happened. There is COVID, and so this is what we have. What would that achieve? Apart from perhaps the political interest in saying that, well, what you're presenting in respect of the COVID is either too small or too little. I don't know what we achieve by that. It is not the intention of government that perpetually we are going to be preparing some traditional budget that would follow the trajectory that we would have followed without COVID. But with COVID, this is the COVID budget. I don't know why you want to think along.
Let me ask you a direct question. The minority says that the figures that you brought earlier for approval now in the mid-year budget has doubled to over 11 billion. How do you explain that?
What has doubled to 11 billion?
Your expenditure for COVID-19.
You see, when you say COVID-19, for instance, the Agenda 111, where government is constructing hospitals in the regions and in the districts, is that a COVID-19 expenditure or not? You see, that is what we are confronted with when we want to go down this academic path of presenting a COVID budget and a non-COVID budget. There are very gray areas. If anybody says the figures have doubled, I want to see which specific figures they're referring to. We came to Parliament today to seek authorization for an additional expenditure of 11.9 billion. We have explained clearly in the budget, if you get a copy of the budget, we have explained clearly where the expenditures are coming from. What we hope would be done is look at these figures, and where people disagree with the content of the expenditures, let them provide alternative perspectives. We are happy to learn if people put across constructive criticisms, but to just say the money is too much and it just doesn't help in any way. But it is particularly unhelpful when we begin to make statements that are not true, because many of these things have been clearly explained in the budget. If we haven't read the budget yet, please let's take our time, read the budget before we go around public commentary and say things that are not true. Mr.
Aveji, let me pick your quick reaction before we wrap up this conversation. Kindly unmute for me, Mr. Aveji. Mr. Aveji, kindly unmute for me. You're still mute.
I'm clear now.
Yes,
I can be heard now.
Loud and clear.
Thank you very much. Good evening and welcome to the discussion. Basically, the issue that Aisha is talking about doubling of figures is actually looking at what you came to Parliament to request when you were making a request to take money from the stabilization fund or from the contingency fund. The budget that you put out earlier on is what she is referring to as being doubled. But basically, what you are asking for now as a supplementary budget is 11.9 billion, as you rightly quoted. And we also made reference to the same figure, that you are making additional expenditure of 11 billion. Our concern is that your revenue is dropping for over 20%, from about 68 billion to 53.7 billion. And yet your expenditure is increasing to 97.7 billion, about 14% increase. The issue clearly is that, yes, we know COVID-19, it's something that we did not expect, but what effort are you making to ensure that you revamp the revenue?
Okay, let him answer that question. Let him answer that question for me briefly. We're running out of time. We need to wrap up. Mr. Kweku, just answer that direct question for me so we can wrap up.
My brief response to him is this, that as a result of COVID, government revenue has suffered. But also as a result of COVID, government has come under some expenditure pressures. You want to evacuate your nationals from outside, you want to provide relief, you want to do all those things that have been done so far to help us as a country deal with this pandemic. What do we say? That because revenues are underperforming, we will not incur these expenditures? Of course we will. Now, if you look at globally, the global figures that the IMF have put out, as a result of this situation in almost every country, the deficit projected for 2020 globally, the average is 13.9.
So,
Ghana is doing 24. So the point I'm making is that this situation that your revenues are underperforming, so somehow those spent on COVID gas is not feasible. It is not happening in any country.
Nobody says
All right,
that.
so this conversation will be continued on PM Express.
My point I'm raising is...
Mr. Aveji, we're running out of time, but this conversation will certainly continue on PM Express with George Riafe at 9 p.m. So stay on the Joynews channel. I'm grateful, gentlemen, that you joined us. Dr. Lord Mensah is economist with University of Ghana. James Kluge-Aveji is Deputy Minority Leader, and Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwati also joined. I'm grateful for your time. Still to come in business, government is seeking to invest 11.8 billion cedis more for the rest of the year. The details in business shortly.
Welcome back, everyone, to the business segment. We are continuing the conversation on the mid-year budget review. Government is seeking to spend 11.8 billion cedis more for the rest of the year. The finance minister, who tabled the request before Parliament today, said it was to help government finance various projects, and he indicated that the COVID-19 pandemic had resulted in revenue shortfalls and a budget deficit. The amount is needed to protect livelihoods and businesses. I want you to take a closer look at these numbers. Let's have a quick discussion on what the finance minister said today before Parliament. Joining me is Karit Buti, who is an economist with Data Bank, and Yao Latte, who is a financial advisory leader with Deloitte Ghana. Great to have you both on the program. I'm sure you guys were listening to the politicians go at each other over the mid-year budget review. But let's take a reality for those of us who are business people or individuals who really want to know what this means for them. Let me start with you, Yao. Looking at the figures that were presented today, what does it say about the state of our economy?
Yeah, so thank you very much. I think the figures as presented is just a reflection of the uncertainties that we've seen over the last few months. So as you recall, the Minister of Finance had earlier presented a revised budget to Parliament just immediately when we were hit by the pandemic. And in that budget presentation, the minister had revised the GDP estimate to about 2.5%, 2.6% from a 6.8% projection. As we speak, the minister has revised it further downwards to 0.9%. So it's just a clear indication that we still, the situation is worsening. And this is partly due to our unplanned expenditure arising out of the coronavirus pandemic.
All right. Sorry to cut you. Let me go to Courage. So government seeking essentially 11.8 billion cedis to spend more this year. We know they're trying to spend this on the COVID-19 preparedness and response plan, provision for health infrastructure, COVID-19 alleviation program, capitalization of National Development Bank, and so forth. Did the finance minister leave anything out on what to spend the money on?
Well, good evening to your listeners. I do not think so, and I wouldn't say so because I have no basis to say so. What we need at this time, if you recall, when COVID struck, government had to resort to some local firms, companies, mostly the pharmaceuticals. When it became difficult, the whole globe is looking for PPEs to buy from the main producers. But we had to rely on local ingenuity. The local pharmaceutical industry actually responded. When it became impossible for people to cross the borders and bring the things we normally import, we have had to rely on the locals to step in to provide parts of them. So if we want to do a program that would alleviate or help us navigate the COVID situation, I think logically to be investment in our locals, focusing on the enterprises and what they can bring on board. Maybe our case is a bit different in that we haven't seen, even though there were job losses, we haven't seen a lot of it, or it's not so pronounced. And that is because of the informal nature of our economy, where a lot of small-scale industries are operating who are hiring people in different capacities. And so if you want to sustain jobs and then help recover your economy, I think the best places to focus would be focusing on those small-scale industries. And then, of course, the other major established ones that can help you sustain your local production base or reduce your reliance on the external market, especially when you are promoting a certain Ghana Beyond Aid agenda. I think the focus will have to be on industry. The focus will have to be on the small-scale business, and then that is what it appears to me they are attempting to do with it. So I have no reason to say that they've left anything out. I see also in that plan, expenditure plan, that not only are they doing support to enterprises, they are also looking at support to even the less privileged in terms of the water and an electricity tariff, at least electricity for the baseline consumers. So it tells you that yes, support, but we are looking beyond support to producing to meet our immediate needs. So I believe.
And a yes or no question for both of you. For both of you, do you see a path to recovery based on what was presented today? I've heard so much commentary about this, and people are not really sure if there was really a path to recovery. And so a yes or no answer from both of you. Yao?
Yeah, so I think there's an opportunity for us to capitalize on, especially in sectors like the mining sector. Price of gold and other minerals are going up. So if you can support production in the mining sector, we can have the benefit of that. Plus, the cost of production in the mining sector.
But we run out of time. And encourage 15 seconds for you. What do you think? Do you see
sure, definitely there is a part, but it depends on the implementation of that. We are good at creating good plans and crafty stuff on paper, but how do we implement them? On paper, they are good plans. Then the targets are okay for me. It's the implementation that matters, whether it could actually turn out to be a positive thing for all of us.
Thank you so much for your thoughts. We will continue the conversation tomorrow, certainly on our business programs, but that is it for business for now. If you're watching on Joy Prime, that's our program tonight. The news continues right after the break.
Thank you for staying with us on Joy News. I'm Gary Al Smith, and this is The Sport. We are still on Joy Prime, by the way. Today, a bit of history. For the first time in the history of European football, an African has won a league title. His name is Emmanuel Ndubuisi Egbo, and he's Nigerian. This is how Albania finished their league. FK Tirana on top had 69 points and are winners. And coaching with Albania with the top flight side FK Tirana, as you see, Egbo becomes also the first African to qualify a team for the European Champions League or any European competition for that matter. Those of you of an older generation might remember this is how he looked like back in the day when he used to play for the Super Eagles. Here he is with Kanu Iwankwo as a Super Eagles goalkeeper. These days, this is what he looks like as he joins us via Zoom. Emmanuel, thank you very much for joining us on Joy News in Ghana.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
And congratulations on this historic feat. A continent of over 1 billion people who love football, and none has ever done so with the European club by qualifying them before. Congratulations, first of all.
Thank you. Like I've said many times, I would say that we have to be congratulating ourselves, not only me. I congratulate you and you congratulate me, because this feat is not only for me as Ndubuisi Emmanuel Egbo, but it's for all Africans, it's for all Black race, like you said. So I feel elated to be a part of this history we made, and we all should be happy for ourselves for this massive achievement.
Nice one. First of all, many African coaches do exceedingly well in their domestic leagues for their national teams, but can't break into Europe. What would you say is the way that you've done it? What's the secret?
Well, the secret is we have to work hard and we have to believe in ourselves. Like I have said many times, if we cannot make it in Europe, we cannot blame too much the Europeans or the white folks. We have to blame ourselves because for a long time we have been put into a mindset or mentality that maybe the Europeans are better than us, and if we tend to accept that, that is the biggest mistake we will do. Our problem is with us, and I think we are the one that will solve that issue, because if we believe in ourselves and do everything possible to work hard, then something like this can happen. And this is exactly what I did. Well, of course, we'll have stopovers, we'll have people that we don't want us to achieve it, but if we continue to do our best and to believe and to work hard, I believe the sky can be the limit of any African coach or whoever.
You yourself, you used to be a goalkeepers trainer for this same team, and you have risen through the ranks. I know that some other Nigerian coaches like Sunday Olise and others are also in other teams. There are some Ghanaian coaches like Didi Dramani and others as well. What do you think yourself, your feat has done for all these African coaches in Europe trying to make it?
Yeah, like I said, it's not a celebration that only me should enjoy, or it's a celebration of all African coaches, any coach of color all over the world, wherever they may be right now. That I hope that it will give them hope, to give them confidence in themselves, to work, to know that if they work hard and believe and try to improve themselves, that they can achieve also the same thing, because it will not be an easy road, but with a hard work, with motivation, determination, then it can happen. Okay. So I hope that it will help them to believe in themselves.
Right. Now let's look into the future. You have done it. Who do you want to draw in the Champions League?
Well, for me, it doesn't matter who we draw. The important thing is that we go there, like I said. We will try to go there to give our maximum best.
I know, Emmanuel, but come on, give me some names. What will be your dream draw? What will be your dream draw?
Of course, if you play against bigger teams, that is, I would like to play bigger teams, because when you win against a bigger team, then you will show that you did something.
Give me a name. Give me two names. Like.
We will wait. We will wait, because there are many big teams to play. We have a lot of big teams from different countries. It doesn't matter whoever comes. We expect just to give our maximum.
Excellent, Emmanuel. Congratulations! You are getting platitudes from all over the world, and you deserve it. All the best, and hopefully we see you at the top in a Champions League final very soon.
Thank you very much for having me once again, and it's a pleasure. And I thank all the Africans, my fellow country Nigerians, and everyone that have been sending me accolades and congratulatory messages. I couldn't believe it. I was there. I just got to know when, after winning the championship, that I'm the first African and the first Nigerian to do this feat, because I just concentrated on doing my job and to make sure that I take my team to win the championship, without knowing that the history is we are going to make history. So it is it's starting to sink in, and I believe God will do more, use us to do more. Not only this, but to do something more bigger in the future through the Champions League or something else.
As they say, the glass ceiling is well and truly broken. I'm Gary Al Smith, and that's the sport for now. I'll be back for the second part. Stay with us.
Showbiz. Becky's here.
It's time for international.
Becky. Hello to you. Happy mid-year budget reading day to you. Same to you, Becky. Yeah, I hope. Oh, cool. Everything is fine. But Aisha, what's in the news is Leila Jansi is demanding an apology and retraction of defamatory comments by Kafi Danku. So movie producer and director Leila Jansi is demanding an apology and retraction from actress Kafi Danku over defamatory statements she made on Facebook.
In a letter said by the lawyers of Ms. Jansi, they said the comments were made not only to tarnish the producer's image, but also negatively influence the society's image of Leila. Quote, I might as well make the whole community aware that you are dangerous. If anybody has warned you to be careful of Leila Jansi, believe them, quote, is the statement Kafui Danku had written on her Facebook wall on July 21. They claim Kafui Danku had deleted the initial apology she had written to the Northern Affairs Director. Quote, notwithstanding the said apology, the damage to our client's reputation had already been occasioned as the said defamatory words had been widely circulated by various media outlets and blogs. Leila Jansi and her lawyers are demanding Kafui Danku direct all media outlets that publish the story to not only take them down, but also publish her apology and retraction. The retraction is also expected to be posted on Kafui Danku's Facebook wall for at least 7 days. If Kafui Danku fails to do so, Leila Jansi will be compelled to pursue appropriate remedies without further notice. So, Aisha, that's the statement from
So this
Leila.
is the thing I talk about beefing in this industry.
This is...
she said, what did she post? That Kafui Danku is dangerous. She's a dangerous character.
No. So Kafui Danku is posted on her social media.
That Leila Jansi
is dangerous because somebody had told her, Kafui Danku, that Leila has said some things about her. So she is saying that, well, because somebody came to tell Kafui about, something that Leila
For all you know, there may be underlying issues. I mean, not just this post. There may be other issues that is flaming up, this whole legal thing. But is this what I talk about, the beefing? I think it's just getting out of hand, and they must do something.
I'm not sure this. Well, I don't know. I'm not sure.
You and I don't know where this whole thing started before she posted that, and that's why I'm saying, for all you know, there may be some underlying factors. Well, when they get to court, they will find out.
Yeah, we'll come and talk about it when they get to court. But Aisha, do you know Guru?
Of course.
Rapper Guru. Yeah.
I'm trying to recollect one of his music.
Mom, no, I was listening to Mommy God on the Prophets. Please. Al-Qaeda. Yeah, Guru has been in the music industry, has contributed a lot to the industry. You know how we do it. We bring you spotlight.
I know Guru from way back, before even he came. Yeah.
So we're celebrating. That'll be all for Showbiz.
Thank you. Thanks so much for making us Showbiz. And that'll be it for Showbiz. We'll be back shortly with more on Joynews Prime. Welcome back to Joynews Prime. And on your election headquarters, Chairman of the governing NPP, Freddie Blay, has objected to calls for disciplinary actions against MP for Ewutu Senya East constituency, Hawa Kumsin, over her involvement in the shooting incidents at the Step to Christ Registration Center at Kaswa on Monday. Mr. Blay mounted a strong defense in favor of the Special Development Minister, arguing Madam Kumsin was rather a victim.
If you listened exactly, I believe you had reporters on the scene. And based on the report from your own reporters and some of our membership and independent bystanders of what took place at that place. There was a surge of people, some on motorbikes, and rushing at the MP who was going around to inspect what was going on, encourage people say you shouldn't have been there, and so forth. Encourage members of the party and the public, and even NDC people to patronize the registration exercise. And then before she was there, there were people surging around and on motorbike threatening. She felt threatened. It was a lady. the story that she's saying, which I have no reason to believe otherwise. And I felt very threatened. He was defending herself. And he didn't shoot at anybody. He fired a warning shot to keep people, to ward off the people who were coming too close. Some, I'm told, one of them used a motorbike to hit a car that was in it. That's what she says. That's what some people are saying. And check from your own reporters what took place. I think it's over-exaggerated. And people are...
It's exaggerated?
It's over-exaggerated.
Over-exaggerated?
That's what I'm saying.
I see.
Definitely. She has agreed that...
She has
admitted that he fired a warning shot. Take care for her word. And if you are talking about as if there was bullets all over, like there was a big fight between individuals at that spot or not, there haven't been any report, any casualties. But it's unfortunate if there was an array of bullets flying up and down, but I don't believe that's what happened. What it says is that people on bikes were threatening her, and she felt her life was threatened, and that's what she did. It's unfortunate that such a situation took place, but thank God not any individual was assaulted or had any bullet.
I mean, her action disrupted the whole registration exercise.
I am not saying her action. Those who threatened her also should be blamed. Indeed, they should be more blamed for what happened. Where are they from? Are they going to register
themselves? Is a victim in this?
He was a victim, definitely, in this instance. But be it as it shouldn't have been, a situation shouldn't have been created like that. In this country, you could imagine if you feel threatened, you are a woman, and you don't have people around you who could easily save the situation. You need to protect yourself. That's what I've been told, and I have no reason to believe otherwise.
Kumson's action has attracted widespread condemnation, with calls on the party to discipline her and also the president showing her the exit as a minister. But chairman of the party, Freddie Blaze, says he will not initiate any sanctions against her since her conduct does not breach the party's constitution.
Law that the police are investigating the matter, and I believe we should leave it at that.
So the party,
those who have expressed opinion, I won't stop them from expressing an opinion. I disagree with those who are calling for
some sanctions and resignations.
The party laws of the party do not call for any sanction in this circumstance, and I will therefore not initiate anything of the sort.
So you won't discipline her for doing that?
I'm saying that the facts are still unfolding. Police are investigating. I will not take any steps. I will not encourage any steps. The party's constitution doesn't call for any sanction in this. Nobody has lodged any complaint, except those who are expressing opinion, as it were, and I'm saying let them keep their opinion over this issue. We will wait for the report of the police.
So you only act after the report of the police? Is that what it is?
I'm waiting for the report.
The party.
If the police doesn't say anything untoward has been done by her, what action should the party take? If you're waiting for the report of the police, and based on that, you will know what to do.
Has also been reacting to NDC's call on its members to defend themselves at registration and impressed on the elders of the party to call its National Communications Officer, Sami Jemfi, to order.
It's a pity. This circumstance does not call for this kind of tension to be raised. You see, as a class of politicians, we must also be wary of our actions and know exactly what to do and our utterances. My attention has been drawn, for example, to what the NDC communicator,
the National Communications Officer.
That's right.
You're talking about Sami Jemfi.
Yes, I've heard it.
Okay.
Reaction to the situation and calling on party men to arms and to defend themselves, as it were. I'm saying it's not a voting period. This is an exercise that it's registration. Electoral Commission is organizing. And then, of course, our party members, I'm talking about both party members and all other party, various parties, are urging their members to go and register, so that on the D-Day they may be in a position capable, if they so qualified to do so, will exercise their franchise at the appropriate time. It's good to encourage it, but it's too early for people to even raise the tension. And people calling that people are being beaten, and that they are calling their members to defend themselves. It's absolutely uncalled for. Everybody has a right to defend himself or herself, depending on the circumstance.
Right. So you agree with him?
Oh, wait, listen, it's not a question of agreeing with him. I'm saying depending on the circumstance. Right now, there's no need for anybody to raise that kind of tension. Make it look like it's a war situation. It's not the first time that we've even had an exercise leading to an election. It's registration time. There have been even instances when we were having on the polls day, that is, let's say 7 December, or in some cases by elections, and the two parties or the other parties, they managed to meet, and in some cases there had been breach of the peace in various instances and so forth. But that's not a national occurrence. That is not justification for any individual now to call to arms its members like this country is at war, and making it look like as if there is a general trend towards intimidating and beating people. Beating people for what? And then they're going to exercise their franchise, or they are being prevented to, as it were, register as voters. I don't see it. I'm saying that the tension is not necessary. If I had my own way, I would advise stakeholders in NDC to talk to their members, particularly the young ones who are making it look like as if this country is. And indeed, it is their attitude and the way they are talking. That's what inviting Christian council members and all other individuals who are making it look like as if this country is almost coming to blows with each other, a civil strife of some sort. It's unnecessary.
Students of KNUST Senior High School today paid tribute to their colleague who died recently, describing him as brilliant, caring and supportive. The late Sam Leonard Richards was laid to rest today as 2 committees separately investigate circumstances leading to his death. His colleagues went on a demonstration of allegations teachers had abandoned the sick for fear of COVID-19. Love FM Terasas Asaridonko witnessed the burial ceremony and has filed this report.
The final year business candidate for WASI had been a day student until government, as a preventive measure, directed all such students to be admitted into boarding. It is part of the preventive measures against the virus when final year students returned from the COVID-19 break to prepare for their exams. Sam complained of stomach ache at school, but according to his colleagues, he couldn't get help on time. He died later at Dementia Government Hospital after the father had arrived to take over from caretaker students who had taken over responsibility in the absence of help from teachers. 2 committees are investigating accusations of neglect by school authorities and the circumstances leading to his death. Today, teacher unions, education directors, friends, and other sympathizers joined the family to pay their last respect to Sam, whose colleagues shared glowing memories of him.
We came to pay our last respect to our brother. Yes, you see, it was rather unfortunate that we lost him. But now we are just encouraging ourselves. Though he is no more, but he will forever remain in our hearts. Rest in peace, Sam.
Who was he? What would you say about him?
He was my class prefect, a brother, a friend, like anything that we can think of. Yeah, he was a good person to everybody who had an encounter with him. Yes.
What's the one thing you remember about him?
one thing that I'll always use to remember him is whenever I have a problem with any of the subjects, then I'll go to him. He will not hesitate. But what he will do is that he will help me solve my problem concerning any of the subjects.
Was he brilliant?
Very brilliant, of all standards.
The Ghana Education Service donated 5,000 Ghana cedis among other donations towards his funeral. Sam's parents will not speak on record to Love News, but are hopeful findings of the two investigative committees will give them justice. Reporting for Joynews, Erastus Asaridonko, Kumasi.
In a related development, a second-year student of Ejisu Secondary Technical Senior High School has been hospitalized after drinking liquid soap in what is believed to be attempted suicide on campus. This was after an assistant headmaster locked him up with a colleague overnight in his office for stealing the school's electric stabilizer. Alarm by the colleagues from inside the office attracted attention to staff and students who found the victim foaming from the mouth. Love FM's Erastus Asaridonko has been following the story and now reports.
According to school authorities, a taxi driver spotted the two students in the evening yesterday trying to scale over the school wall with a hidden item. He arrested and handed them over to the assistant headmaster, who retrieved the stolen stabilizer. Assistant headmaster Kofi Apia told Love News he asked the students to strip naked to their underwear and lock them up in his office until the next day.
So I was trying to inquire from them where they got it, and they were not trying to tell me the truth. And it was late in the night. School management, the teachers weren't around. Headmaster too wasn't around, and I didn't want to take any decision outside them. So I decided to keep them in my office so that the following morning, that is today, when the head comes and then the other management members also come, then we sit on the issue and then we trash it out. Unfortunately, there was this liquid soap there that they used to clean the office. I don't know what happened, and then one of the students took it. And I don't know whether he drank it or whatever. So they called me in the morning and said that he has drunk some of the, what do you call the liquid soap. So quickly we came, and then he was there on the ground. And then we took him to the hospital. And then later on the headmistress came, and then reported the case to the commander, the BNI first. And then the police commander also came in. So right now the other guy, they have taken the other guy to the police. And this one too is at the hospital. And so that is the issue now.
And is it true they were stripped to their boxer as they speak?
Oh, yeah. And I just, they were wearing some white shirts. And then I said you should take the white shirt off. And they were wearing the boxer all right. But you see, the police, I can take you there, is very nice police. The fan was there, the light was there, everything was there. Everything clean.
So were they locked inside the office for the whole night?
My own office, yes. I locked them in my own office just for the headmistress to come the following day and the other management members to come so that we can trash out the issue.
My worry was that anything could have happened in the night while she left them there. Anything at all could have happened.
I told them that definitely they will urinate. So before that, I asked them to urinate so that they won't go and then maybe have that problem over there.
One of them drank a liquid hand-washing soap he found in the office. His colleague in the morning shouted for help to draw the attention of other teachers on campus, who rushed him to the Ejisu Government Hospital.
We are told by health officials he is responding to treatment, but we were not allowed to speak with him directly. But his mom has been telling us what actually happened.
Assistant headmaster ne bonasu sana akura ne ka kire me senka akola no bani be na odi ya mutumi loko no
mutumi loko no ewo dem mutumi loko no dem nti ade na wonum ye no wonum ye na wo wu ya na isa akwala no ade chinye wo wu.
Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
And still to come in the second part of business, minority spokesperson on finance warns that the country's debt stock would hit threatening levels. The details in business shortly.
Welcome back. Some more business news for you. My name is Daryl Kwao. Minority spokesperson on finance at Forsen is warning that the country's debt stock would hit threatening levels next year following government's revised expenditure. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta is seeking Parliament's approval to spend over 11 billion cedis in the next 6 months of the year. Now, this should put our end-of-year expenditure at 98 billion cedis. But Ato Forsen tells Joy Business that this approach could cripple the economy.
My major concern is that the original budget had said that you are going to borrow 18.8 billion. The revised budget is, you are saying that you're going to borrow 44 billion Ghana cedis. It means an addition of 12.1 billion Ghana cedis. In spite of that, if you were to look at the breakdown where the borrowings are going to come from, I'm particularly worried about the fact that the borrowings are actually coming from the domestic. From domestic, you are increasing domestic debt by 16.2 billion. In fact, the original budget has said the domestic borrowing will be 15.8. Now you are saying it's going to be 32.
Oh, no, is a concern about the accountability or the fact that the quantum of expenditure or the amount? Because if you look at globally, COVID-19 has, let's say, even the German Chancellor is saying that has thrown questions about fiscal prudence and deficit to the back door.
Let me come in.
And then that's something that, looking at the challenge that we have right now, do you think that the question and the concerns about fiscal prudence and even deficit still stands when you have to spend to save the economy and save lives?
It does. It does. There are two concerns. One on the accountability bit, and I've said that 11.1 billion, we need some accountability. We need to have the accountability. That is one. Number two, countries that are observing fiscal prudence around times like this, and the fact that you raise the other countries are saying the fiscal prudence doesn't really matter. It does matter, and others are doing it. You see, it does matter, and others are doing it. I'll tell you how they are doing it. First of all, you have to reprioritize your budget. So you look at the existing budget that you drew, okay, and then see what you can cut and what you perfectly believe that you can cut, and things that you can do in a form of stimulus. So I want to look at the budget. First of all, look at what has changed from the original budget to the current budget. Clearly, from the expenditure side, I do not see the minister prioritizing anything, and that's a major worry. Everything stands the same, and you can look at from the expenditure side. If you look at the money, nothing is changing. From the capital expenditure side, you could and find a way and actually balance it from the other side, but I'm not seeing that.
Well, catch the full conversation on PM Express Business Edition in about 15 minutes. And let's turn to stakeholders in the agri sector who are disappointed there was no major policy intervention to support the sector by the finance minister as concerns grow about food security during the pandemic. Anthony Morrison is CEO of the Agribusiness Chamber.
We felt that considering the 2018 facts and figures from Ministry of Food and Agriculture, which I have in front of me, and also considering the budget for the 2020, the highlights that we were looking at, we would have expected something more robust in that we are in a pandemic situation, and as a country, we do have over 12 million people involved directly in agriculture. So one would have thought that we would have seen probably a major policy shift indeed to increase the food security challenges of the country, and also to look at the local content aspect of our productivity. But that notwithstanding, we do know that the PFJ, the 1D, 1F, the One Village, One Dam, the planting for food and exports, the rearing for food and jobs, and the greenhouse capacity building are some of the interventions. But these interventions, we've been doing some monitoring over the years, and realize that if you look at the poor within the rural sector, do not actually benefit essentially from these interventions.
Well, just in case you missed out on the presentation by the finance minister, here are some reliefs government is planning to introduce amid the pandemic. All right, now here's how we are ending trading on the commodity market. Catch up on the media budget presentation on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Sports is up next.
Thank you for staying with us on Joynews Prime. This is the second part of the sport. I'm Gary L. Smith. Emmanuel Game Boy Tego is a former IBO lightweight champion. And yesterday we brought you a story of how boxing saved him from robbery and jail. But what has the sport given him since he got into it professionally? That's more in the following report.
In an interview with Joy Sports, Emmanuel Tego revealed that he was a notorious armed robber, but boxing saved him from the streets and jail. His story is not different from other boxers across the globe. Boxing is a sport that has given so much to these people, and the Game Boy is not an exception. He's been speaking about the world he's gained since switching from the streets to professional boxing.
Mi wahana me kumi wagana maton 9 cars. Masi fie wa West Legon. Apart from no masi apartment in our West Legon. In our credits no me be manyami because na me na ye biama. Boxers I think say Joshua Cloth woni pack you and sana what me move call Legon. Lower Legon. Me wa West Legon. Me who say boxer be a move akọ because I think so be anymore plot people bo. Eti me so etore bia me happy, me very okay with my life, me live it good, de bia me yinyame aye. There's no way anyame aye bia ma me.
Tego feels his quality is undermined by so many people within the boxing industry. He says he is the only boxer in the world not to have had an amateur career but has grown to become a world champion.
Gifted boxer, boxing onyame de chem. Mini boxer, man suya boxing. One, ewo dio we mi boxing career mu de maye no dio we do bi anye bi da. Man ko amateur, I don't think say boxer bi aye bi da menim straight to professional. Mini boxer bi a record amaye wo Ghana no. Enye Ghana pe o dio we do bi anye bi man suya boxing man ko amateur straight to professional. Ma kun 32 fighters, ma sisa 15 titles, any one title am on my Ghana. There is no way a boxer bi aye bi wo dio we do. Yen follow me na yen for time tour na yen face fat Emma Ghana we na yen fa sa boss de maye no obi ani ni record obi si waye we awon fa na media mi maye no we say obi anye bi da na obi antimi enye bi da so.
Emmanuel Tego is expected to fight in the WBO final eliminator in the next 3 months.
Now, the Ghana Football Association on Wednesday announced a 3-year sponsorship agreement with Macron Ghana Limited, an apparel company, to provide 5,000 balls and 1,500 bibs to the association for its members. Vice chairman of the Premier League Committee is Jesse Ajapong, And in an interview with Joy Sports says, though securing the agreement was a difficult one, it's the beginning of greater things to come.
On Wednesday, the Ghana Football Association announced an agreement with Macron Ghana Limited, an apparel company expected to provide 5,000 football, 1,500 babes at an estimated amount of 1.6 million Ghana cedis to members of the Ghana FA for its competitions. The agreement is the first major sponsorship signed between the Ghana Football Association and a corporate entity since May 2018, when Zalof and Cash were announced as sponsors of the Ghana Premier League. The COVID-19 pandemic has brought financial distress to most corporate institutions in the country, and considering the lack of footballing activities caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, it is expected that securing such a sponsorship was always going to be a difficult one. Vice Chairman of the Premier League Committee, Mr. Jesse Ajepon, revealed in an interview with Joy Sports that reaching an agreement with any company for sponsorship in these trying times is difficult.
Well, I think that it's as the marketing team would always say, first of all, it's not easy having a football conversation, and then in Ghana today. And the second layer of trouble is in relation to COVID and what COVID had actually done. So even having the sponsors willing to speak to you in a time like this was quite difficult. But with the announcement of the next season coming up, it means that the opportunity is there. It means that the FA is much more prepared. It means that the football fraternity is actually prepared, and therefore it wasn't easy, but it's a good conversation that has been had so far.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
They have been pressure on the GFA to secure sponsors for its activities. Mr. Ajipon believes the deal with Macron Ghana Limited has opened the way for more organizations to be willing to partner the Ghana Football Association.
Please, thank you very much for your time. Now, Macron are part of the Ghana Football Association. What does it mean to our local football?
Well, it means that there is support coming into the football fraternity. Over the past couple of weeks, you may have seen the GFA president and the marketing team going out trying to engage with corporate Ghana to get a requisite attention first and to get a requisite support for our football. So it's exciting to see that one out of the many who had been approached by the FA president have stepped forward to engage with a football fraternity through support. And for me, it's exciting, and it seems like a beginning of things to come.
Okay, how difficult was it pulling out this deal?
The relationship between the GFA and Macron is expected to run until 2023.
And that's it for the sport for today. You can get more on myjoyonline.com and on our various social media channels. Joy Sports GH is this. I'm Gary Al Smith. Thank you for your time.
And as we wrap up Joynews Prime tonight, my name is Aisha Prime. Many thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of our programs.